I would say a lot of what we do and what you're hearing people say is like, how do we, when we lose a limb, it's like, how do we adapt to life now? You know, even with the prosthetic limb, the first time, and I was talking to somebody the other day, they were just getting started with the prosthetic limb, and it's like, it's a new series of firsts. You know, that first time you get in the water, but then when you find out, you know what, it wasn't as difficult as I was afraid that it might have been, and then you have that, you know, it's enjoying, you enjoy it. It's great. It's good to be back, and you know, just the first time overcoming those obstacles, I think, is so big, because once we can see ourselves doing it, then it just builds on itself, and that next time isn't as scary, and we get out of our shell. And water's a huge one. People love water. You can't keep them out of it, and people that don't, you can't get them in it. But if we want to be in the water, we're not going to be fulfilled until we do that. I mean, especially with the pool, don't wait till you get the aquatic limb if you can. Just give it a try, and most of the times that's one where the success rate is pretty high, and people usually experience instant gratification. They say, hey, I could get in the water. And the big thing a couple of people were saying is the buoyancy of that. Once you're in there, your weight doesn't affect you the way it normally does on land, and it's so easy to balance yourself. My first time in a swimming pool on a prosthetic limb, it wasn't a water leg. I wasn't supposed to be on there, but I was I'm a lot better prosthetist than I was a patient. I always say, do as I say, not as I do. But it was the first time I was able to stand fully erect with my, because I was still, I was only like 4 or 5 months post-op at the time, where I'd only been wearing a prosthesis for not very long. But in the water, I found out that buoyancy helped my gait and things like that, because I wasn't struggling with the weakness to support myself the way, a lot of water therapy, it can be very good. Getting in the pool is there's a lot of exercise benefits to that.
Even when we were training for our triathlon, and Scott had an injury, as he was getting back to the very first, the way that he got back to training was resistance training in one of those like the lazy river type things, and just walking against it. Walking against that, because he still had the buoyancy, but he was getting all the resistance. He was getting all the aerobic benefits without the impact of walking or running or those things.
I forgot about that. But whenever I have a foot injury on my sound side, training happens more often than I like. I go right to water.
Water is so important.
Because you reduce that impact on my sound side. And, when you got a deadline to compete, it's like, doesn't stop because you have an injury. They don't give you more time. So you're like, I'm always like, well, I got to keep working out. How do I do that? I go right to water because I know I can do it safely without, increasing my injury. So.